And Trace, Dos, Uno. Man, welcome back to another edition of In the Zone, episode 9. I am your councilman, bringing you the news from the hood. Man, Daronce Daniels with my partner in crime. Tell the people who you are.
What up, 2023, what it do? In his zone, what it do? It's the one and the two. What's going on, man? Happy to be here, man.
Man,
a lot of stuff to talk about. Yeah, we good. What's up?
No, man, but sure, bro. I just wanted to drop into it because, man, 2023, as you said before, it's going to be a hell of a year. It's already starting off crazy. Man, this week has been crazy. Whether if you're talking about what's going on down in Washington, D.C. with the House of Representatives, or you talking about what's taking place in the NBA, you were reaching up on that. Hopefully we have time to touch up on that. Yeah. But we definitely want to make sure we continue to send prayers out. But it's been good news to Brother Hamlin. Everybody was rocking the threes right now, man. That's been a crazy thing. We happen to be there. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and jump right into that, man, and just your whole thoughts on what took place this week, man. Hey, do you think that how the NFL handled it, allowing us to continue to just let everybody walk away and just cancel the game? Just your whole thoughts on how the whole week took place, bro.
Yeah, they pretty much didn't have a choice. Like, based on how much coverage his case got, and rightfully so, definitely happy that he came out into a better light and is in a better situation, is up talking. First thing he said was that they win the game, so he has heart, and definitely proud of him. And I'm proud of the way the city handled the whole situation. The city definitely rallied behind him. They definitely had me proud to say I was from Cincinnati, the way that everybody handled the thing, including the NFL. I don't think they really had a choice. I don't think it would have made sense or anybody would have felt that it was necessary for that game to be played this week. Although it did have big implications on the playoffs,
man,
and we'll talk about the playoffs in a second and what that means. But it was too much. Everybody was too worried about, was he gonna wake up and was he gonna survive for real? That was more important than that game. So
it's crazy. It's crazy. Like you said, we get the blessing to go down there and work and shout out to Paycor Stadium and the connections down there. But we also had a chance to hang out with a couple former Bengals players, and we were all just sitting there while the whole thing was happening. And it was crazy because we didn't know at the time how severe it was. We were just talking about, man, once the whistle blows, everybody's going to snap back into it and play football. But it wasn't just this when it was a head. That's what we were expecting. It was just another concussion. This man was on the field getting CPR and a daggone defibrillator to him. So just think about the trauma that is, right? Like, you're on the field and you watch one of your homies die. Like, I mean, but they
had to bring him back when he came to the hospital. When he got to the hospital, he died again, and they had to bring him back again. So it's a blessing for him to even be able to speak, to be alive. For it could have went left. So yeah, definitely blessed for that and happy about that situation. And again, Cincinnati, good job. Like,
I think we got like one more minute on it, bro. So I want to make sure that we stay on topic, stay on time. But how do you feel about people coming at T. Higgins and that whole situation about it? Because you got some folks that was talking about T. Higgins in the way that he attacked, and not definitely attacked, but dug the shoulder into him and that type of play. Like, just think about his side of it. And what do you think about how people were attacking T. Higgins and that whole aspect of it?
I honestly didn't even know it was a thing for real. It didn't make sense to me. It was a good football play, in my opinion. I don't think it was that big of a deal.
And the thing about it too, once again, we got one more minute left. We were able to, man, you guys will see later, bringing a nurse practitioner, really focuses on the heart. She was talking about how important it is that all of us go get CPR training, right? Yeah. So that everybody has that opportunity to save a life. Sure. Because you got to think the most important people, we were there for a football game, but the most important people there was the training staff that was able to get there, save that young man's life.
They got out there.
Get the heart pumping. And then, like you said before, man, you had to bring it back twice, but until you get that heart pumping, you can't shock him back. So, man, shout out to that team. I believe Dr. Galloway is still the team doctor who used to be with us when we was at Princeton back in 2005. So those connections are always deep. Man, once again, just kind of talking about connections and how we continue to keep things rolling. Man, what new music and just kind of what's popping off from a music perspective, man? Sports and rap and sports and music are always connected. So what you got in 2023 in the music side, Bill?
Definitely. It's still kind of slow, still early in the year. Everybody's still gearing up for the big releases. Nothing too crazy that came out this year. Coke Boys just dropped CMB6, new mixtape. They got a lot of features on there. I mess with your boy French Montana. He make good music.
He do.
And I ain't heard nothing from him in a while, so definitely check that out. And for real, just wrapping up with everything that I was listening to in 2022. Honestly, it's a couple new singles out. Drake just jumped on a single on the Caribbean. A Caribbean record.
That's
Was
been his
listening to
vibe
that.
for a little minute.
Yeah,
You know,
always.
yeah.
He always. You know, he's from Toronto, Canada.
That's true.
They do that up there. It's
Yeah.
definitely a Caribbean scene up there. So that just dropped. But that's pretty much it for real. I don't have a lot of music take this year.
I don't think I got your take on the Gunna situation yet, for real, man. I
mean,
think we got a
yeah,
couple
that's what
seconds.
everybody, the music world is on standstill, really trying to see what's going on with that.
What's your
whole
thoughts on it,
situation.
man? We've had a couple conversations. You know, we were able to have, my brother-in-law, Mantia, had Kayla with the camera, kind of stopped through. Just what was your thoughts on the Gunna situation? Just kind of how things been playing out. Even Young John was able to really talk about it, man. We've been calling him our young Gunna expert. But yeah,
It ain't nothing to think about. That boy told. It ain't that boy did what he had to do to get up out of there. He wanted to go home.
What you think about the thought process
Back home
though?
for Christmas.
Nah, that's true too. I mean, like I said, but what do you think about the thought process though that Young Thug potentially was like, man, this is the play. I'm about to be locked up for a minute. So how about you go out there, you know, my cash cow, get back on the streets, keep putting money back into the business, and shoot, that way we can all continue to keep eating. What was your thought process on that?
I think that's the rationale of the internet trying to defend Gunna because they want to listen to his music. At the end of the day, I don't believe Thug said that his sister and Yak Gotti, when they got caught up in the interview the other day, they confirmed that he never said any of that. He ain't talked to nobody. He didn't greenlight any of them taking those pleas and doing that. And I don't think he was able to talk to any of them. Maybe their lawyers could have gotten in contact, but I don't think he gave anybody the green light to basically hang him. And they all doing that is hurting his trial. Everybody that plea out is hurting him. I don't think he told everybody to do that.
So YSL, freedom of speech, right? They're really hitting it up on the sense of, and it's not just YSL. I think they got some cats up in Chicago on the same type of thing, using the folks' lyrics to really draw them in on a RICO case. Just, what are your thoughts on that, man? Because for real, we always say we want real, authentic artists. But at the same time, is that always the best message? Or no, I don't want to get into that part of it, the best message. That could be a yin or yang conversation. Tell your story, tell your life. But if that ain't your life and you preaching that, what's just your thoughts on how we try to insert a lifestyle into folks' music? Because, man, I was listening to Joe Budden podcast the other day, and, he was talking to Jada and them. Man, Jada's my favorite rapper. And his pops was even mentioned, like, man, Jada, we were kind of middle class for real, man. You went to private school. But that's but Jada's one of my favorite. But even Joe Budden was saying the same thing. Like, we come from a generation that's,
that glorifies the ignorance. Honestly, this is what it ain't no way around it. It glorifies.
But why do we keep putting our money back into that though?
I mean, because to a degree, that's what people like. Sex sells, ignorance sells, violence sells, and to say that people don't like that is a lie because it's evident in every form of entertainment that most Americans use. So that's part of it, and then part of it is just pure ignorance. I feel like that's being pushed on our culture to a degree. Just like the feminist movement and some other movements that I feel like they're being pushed on us from a media perspective, from a big media perspective. So, I mean, it's multiple layers to that. It depends on where you want to go with it, but we all just got to choose to do better and what you choose to accept and what you choose to listen to.
Like I said, because I always think about that, man. Like I said, Jada's my favorite rapper. But if Jada was always spitting, like, Why was one of his best tracks, but that's not one of his favorite verses for me. Yeah. My favorite verse from Jada is Everybody's a Snake. That's why I keep my grass cut. So when I see them and they coming, then I eat they. Yeah. But like you said, that's a motivating factor. I used to listen to the Locks before every game, and it wasn't some, peace, love, and journey. Yeah. But there's a space for that and there's a place for that, man,
And just because you listen to that don't mean that's what you're
that
forced to do.
Too,
it's not forced to what you're supposed to react to. But that was a dope interview. Shout out to Jada. Kiss, that was hard. We need to promote that more.
Man, for sure. Especially shout out to Kiss Coffee, man. Kiss Cafe, man.
Yeah, that's live.
We got to bring that to the hood.
I want to definitely get them on or something. That'd be dope.
Speaking of craziness and ignorance, man, there's a lot of ignorance going on in Washington, D.C. right now, man. So if you're not hip to what's going on, the House of Representatives are trying to pick a Speaker of the House. So, I'm sure everybody heard of Nancy Pelosi. If you from a little bit up north in Westchester, you had Speaker Boehner, who was there for a good while as well. But the Speaker of the House is pretty much the person that said what laws are going to be voted on, how your money's going to kind of be spent in that aspect of it. And he puts people in certain committees. So the rules committees, and we can kind of get into that, neither here nor there. But the situation is that there's one person named Kevin McCarthy who's just trying to become the Speaker of the House. So much that, man, they moved his stuff into that office. He's not even have the job yet. But that's another situation. But the Republicans are really tearing themselves apart, but bringing the country down with us right now. It's kind of been a little bit of embarrassing to kind of see it take place on national television. But, man, just kind of your thoughts on the deal. I know you kind of,
There's always some craziness going on with these people, man. It's always so crazy. Like, this hasn't happened in 100 years, I was reading. Like, this has happened since the 1800s since something like this has happened. And it's still the always what I feel like it comes down to in politics is damned if you do, damned if you don't. You pick with them, you gonna be damned. You pick, like, it's a lose-lose situation. Nobody's benefiting from this situation but possibly the super right-wing extremists from what I was reading. It just doesn't make sense. It is delaying the inevitable, and I just don't get it. And
it's all about an illusion of power too, though. But that's the only thing. And like I said, man, I love our conversations too because it really allows both sides of the spectrum. Because like you said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But then I'll be like, nah, screw that. Get out there and really do the job then. Because that's how democracy works. Get out there and run and take these folks' jobs, like, for real. Like, really build a campaign and really mobilize and understand what our voting block is and what our voting block wants. Because until that situation comes, man, you're always going to be in that damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you're going to always have people representing you that don't know a damn thing about you. And that's always a situation that's going to be
care about their interests as opposed to the ones of the people.
That's all that's happening right now.
Multiple people. Mm-hmm. And dude, is he already moved his stuff into the office? He clearly is only worried about himself. So, and this is a clear example of how this is going to negatively affect the country and the House of Representatives. So it's a clown show. Like, it's starting to just become that up there.
It's always been like that, man. Well, I shouldn't say always been like that, but it seemed like this is a
reoccurring thing.
And it's a reaction to. I'd see the trend line back to when Obama won. When Obama won back in 2008, you saw the Republicans say that, hey, we're not even going to allow this brother to even push an agenda. And then what came out of that was a Tea Party, which then what came out of that was the Freedom Caucus, which is really holding this thing up. So a lot of this really stems back to the roots of, man, entitled conservatives who feel like they can't not lose anything. Like, this is my country, to the point that even they'll eat them own to pick a point. Like, that's the craziest thing. And, man, I love my grandfather, man, but he used to say one thing to me that I'll always forget. He said, man, a racist white man will eat his own just to make sure that a black man don't eat.
For sure.
But I don't always say that that's the situation here. But if the government ain't eating, then our disenfranchised, our less privileged jobs and family services, how the government now supports us, that don't work either, man. So, yeah.
But, hey, on another topic, we'll be talking about disenfranchised and governments and something related to that. Something I want to talk about, something that's been going on in the media. My boy Andrew Tate and the conspiracy and everything that he had going on.
Yeah.
It's been all over the internet. They've been trying to come at this man. They shadow banned him a couple months ago, and now they came and locked him and his brother up on conspiracy of human trafficking and I don't know what other crimes, but they have him locked up. He's being detained for 30 days while they're trying to come up with some type of investigation.
Romania, right?
Romania, yeah. The Romanian government came and got him. They have him detained. They got to keep him for 30 days while they come up with some type of investigation. And it's really crazy because I don't believe that he was doing what they said he's doing. And it almost looks like a witch hunt while they're trying to get this man off the internet and trying to take him down. And yes, he does say some outlandish things sometimes for shock value, I believe, but it's just crazy how he predicted that this was going to happen and stuff like this happened. I want to know what's your opinion on it. I know you weren't really familiar with it. Yeah. What's your take on the situation and how you feel about it?
Definitely got caught up in it, and more so, I almost like karma is a crazy thing too. So I know we only got a few seconds left on it. I definitely want to touch in upon it more. But when you try to live, and we talked about it more with hip-hop too, when you try to portray a lifestyle that doesn't always match reality, sometimes reality catches up with you in one way or another, man. But Nah, we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to bop into this interview that we had with our cardiologist. So I think our guest has stepped through. So we in the zone. We'll be right back. Welcome back to another edition of In the Zone, special edition, man. It's been a crazy week, especially when we're dealing with politics, what's going on at the daggone House of Representatives right now. On board back home, if you were at the Cincinnati Bengals game this week, man, you saw there was a tragic incident that happened. Obviously, there's been some rejoicing good news this past week, but, you know, we always want to bring our subject matter experts on. We want to bring you the best information. So I'm going to allow this goddess, queen, just an overall, what she said, I'm just a nurse practitioner. But, man, when she come in and brings her little homie Nick in like this, you know that she's definitely a person with a great spirit. So I'll allow her to introduce herself. But yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Daronce and team. Thank you for having me on. My name is Nicole Mullins. I hold a lot of titles. The first and most important is wife. Yes. Secondly, I'm a mother to 3 boys. And lastly, I am a nurse practitioner. I am experienced for the last 16 years. I've been practicing in the fields of cardiology and most recently in cardiac and thoracic surgery. I work at the Christ Hospital. I've been there for about 12 years. And I'm just here to kind of give you a little bit of information, what I know, and sort things out and provide a little bit of PR for the American Heart Association and how important it is to become CPR certified.
Hey, man, and that's the thing, too, because we were at the game. Once again, we have the blessing of being able to do some fundraising at the Bengals games, but you can just feel it was an eerie chill over it for 2 reasons. One, because it was just a situation where Tua Tagovailoa had a concussion situation where he got caught off the field. Then we looked up again and saw a similar situation. It was crazy, the conversation that we were having with some former Bengals players, really about, man, once he gets back, the whole game was going to go on, not knowing that this brother's heart had stopped. Right. Let's talk about what causes sudden cardiac arrest, Nicole. What causes that?
There are a lot of things that can cause it. I think most people would associate that with if you had like a heart problem or a heart condition. But in this particular instance, what happened was just a blow to the chest, which is a very common thing to happen in terms of we get hit in the chest all the time. But in this particular instance, he was hit at just the right time and just the right part of the cardiac cycle that his heart just stopped.
So when you mean the cardiac cycle, you're just talking about the rhythm of your heart, right?
That's right. And then the rhythm of the heart. When it beats, every time it beats, the blood flows through the heart and out into the rest of the body. And that process, the heart is a pump, right? But a pump can't work without an electrical system. If the electrical system goes out, the pump stops. And so what happened to him was that his electrical system just stopped. Right at the moment that he was hit, that entire process stopped.
Now, once again, football is a crazy thing. There was a stat that we were just talking about, just in general, just NFL, right? There's about 120 plays per game. You know, if you take that and multiply it by, so pretty much about 1,000 tackles, give or take, per week. But multiply that times the season. Are there any signs, that's why I brought up those statistics, because, it seems like, these things happen, these hits happen repeatedly, but you don't really hear about this. Are there any signs that any parents or any players or just any professionals can see to kind of see this?
That's the hard part, because one of the things that, and this is a little bit of a plug, if your kids play sports physicals are important. Yeah. They're important for the same reason that it's important for you to go to the doctor regularly, because there aren't always signs that are overt. Sometimes it's very subtle things. It's the things that you talk about in conversation with a physician or something that you might bring up that might mean something bigger is going on. And so, it's important to have these physicals done, and it's important, each of these teams has a multitude of physicians that support them. But it's important to have these physicals done because you might just pick up on something very subtle, like a murmur, a heart murmur, right? Or shortness of breath, which, and for you, if you've run 15 laps in practice, you're going to be short of breath. But what's to say that you run half a lap and you have to stop? So let's say in your normal course of practice where you could do one thing before, all of a sudden you can't complete that task without a lot of distress, a lot of shortness of breath. Maybe you have chest pain. Maybe you're just fatigued. And all of those things individually we can say they don't mean anything. I'm tired because I have practice 4 or 5 days a week. I have chest pain because coach made me run really hard. I was giving it my all. Or I'm fatigued and have chest pain. Or I'm short of breath just because I'm working hard all the time. Yeah. They all are individually small things, but together they can mean something really serious, even in kids, especially in kids.
Yeah, and Nicole, you mentioned something, and I didn't want to bring this up, but it was kind of ties into what you were saying. Some of the symptoms that you were sounding like kind of sound like COVID-19 a little bit, so or long right. COVID at some time. So one of the things I definitely want to make sure, I want to debunk and make sure we have real facts here. It was one thing that was just thrown out there on sports radio today. Somebody was saying, he took the vaccine, and that's what. Give me your thoughts on that, and then I just want to kind of talk about what are the real truths between both some COVID symptoms and study cardiac as well, or just our heart problems as well too. But first. I was asked, did the Helm getting the vaccine shot?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. Right.
You don't even have to finish.
Okay, thank you.
It had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
And I'm glad that he was vaccinated. Yeah. Yes. And yes, I believe that everyone should be vaccinated. I do.
And once again, and whether, and I just want to make sure it's clear too, whether your thoughts on that or not, we do not need to put out false information saying that that's what caused this young man's, because that's just irresponsible. But let's try to be on the responsible side of it. As you said before, shortness of breath, right? Pain in the chest. Those were some of the signs that you might have saw in COVID-19. So is there anything, I guess, or we just like you said before, it sounds like just make sure if you feel those symptoms, if you have those type of things, just make sure you go to the doctor, kind of get checked out and all type of stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. And so on that same note, let's talk about family history. How does family history play into these type of situations as well too? You might be completely healthy, especially as a professional athlete. There's a lot of investment into your body, not just personally, but also from the organization as well. So what about family history? How do you take that into account?
Well, it's important to divulge any history at all. I mean, generally we're talking about mom, dad, sister, brother, that kind of history. If an uncle has a cardiac history, it's important to say, but it's not nearly as important as a first-degree relative. So if you know that your dad had a heart attack when he was 56 years old, that's actually very important, because that means that you might have a propensity to have coronary disease or heart disease or even heart failure, or let's say it's hypertension. Any of those things, your propensity is towards a younger age. There are certain conditions that develop and progress with age, right? And those age-related changes are important to know, but it would be vitally important to say that when my dad was 26 years old, he was diagnosed with hypertension, because that's a big red flag, right?
And when you talk about those type of things like hypertension, a lot of these things affect our communities on a higher scale than anything else. So once again, just making sure that we take care of ourselves, go get our screenings, going to the doctor, knowing our numbers are very, very important. It sounds like if coach is telling you to, well, this is our coach right now, what's dealing with our heart right now. She's telling us to go see a doctor. Brother Hamlin, once again, great news that came out this week. He's up, he's talking again.
Yes.
His first, obviously, he wrote a note yesterday asking, did he win? The doctors responded back, said, no, you won the game of life. But then his first words, well, not his first words, but some of the words that he mentioned today is that he told his teams that he loved them. And that's the great thing about sports and the connectivity that you have. But for this young man, once you've had, a sudden cardiac arrest, what are some things that you can do to prevent from having another one?
You know what? Probably most importantly is get to the doctor and stay with your doctor. Okay. Whenever you have any sort of major medical event in your life, being connected to some sort of primary care physician or specialist is the most important first step you can take. You need to keep up with those appointments regularly. If you're prescribed a medication that you should be taking, you need to continue taking that medication, and you don't stop it until, one of those doctors or specialists has told you that it's okay to do that. And probably the most important thing to know about this particular condition is that it is just sort of a fluke, right? But sudden cardiac death in general is called sudden for a reason, because it often comes without any warning sign. And so you don't necessarily know that you need to prevent it. And in this instance, this was a result of really a blunt force to the chest. But for a lot of people, it may occur out of the blue. I have a very good friend whose father died at a car wash. He was washing his car 1 minute, and the next minute he was slumped over. And the thing about it, which probably kind of leads us into what we're here to talk a little bit about today, is how important bystander CPR is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Now let's get into because we provided that training during the summer. There'll be another one in February. I know one of our partners, the Center for Closing the Health Gap, is doing one as well. But this is simple things that you can do at home. Just CPR training. I know as a coach, they make us get it.
Yes.
Anybody working with kids, our staff, we want to make sure they're trained up on it. Yeah, just kind of talk about that. Once again, just being empowered with those own skill sets, being able to save a life, just how important, how vital is it to make sure, once again, our community has these skill sets.
Yeah, it's extremely important, because every time I'm in a crowded situation, the first thing I think about is to look around me to see who's around. Yeah. You don't know where people come from or what they are. The circumstances, especially like, for example, just being at a crowded festival in the summertime in 90-degree heat, right? People are more likely to suffer from distress in those situations. So, being situationally aware is important. And if you see somebody who looks like they're having some trouble, say something or reach out or, look for emergency personnel. Yeah. That's the next thing I do is, besides knowing who's around me, is where's the emergency, services at? Is it an ambulance? Is there a booth? Is there, just someone, a security personnel or anyone, someone that can call someone if there's a problem. Yeah. So, the next thing that I think we all need to know, or most importantly, is anyone can get CPR certified, right? Yep. BLS, basic life support. That's what it is.
It's huge.
And everyone, in my opinion, everyone over the age of 18 should, in some way, especially if you are in a situation where you're around a lot of people. You just don't know.
You never know. And that's what saved that young man's life, right? The fact that there were folks there on the spot that knew CPR that was able to continue, as you said before. Right. Your heart is a pump. So at CPR, you're becoming that pump for somebody else's heart.
Exactly
right. And allowing that opportunity, because yes, they did have to shock her with the defibrillator, which but in order to get to that point, you got to get that part first, and understanding how important that is, being able to save somebody's life, or at least having that skill set to save somebody's life, is definitely vital, especially as we talked about once again, pre-existing conditions, but a lot of the health disparities that plague our communities, we need to be the most equipped, I feel like, have these skill sets at times.
That's right.
That kind of a little bit more funner topics, Nicole. If you got about 5 more minutes, if that's cool. Okay. Let's talk a little bit, just some football talk, a little sports talk. If that's cool. So we did talk about how what took place on the field. Just want to get your thoughts, because that was one of the conversations that was brought up this week. Do you think that they should have? Do you think that what they did, how they kind of just said, "Hey, both teams, we're not going to play the game"? Do you think that was the appropriate move at that time?
Yes, I think so. I think this is like one of those life-changing events. I mean, it opens like a Pandora's box, but it's something that may never happen again for another 20 or 30 years. But I mean, it raises a lot of questions and sort of makes you wonder, like, are there other contingencies that need to be put in place if this situation does ever happen again? But I think most importantly, if anyone, yourself or anyone on your team, experienced an event like this and you didn't know what was going to happen, would you be in the right mindset to play a game?
Yeah.
And would you even be willing to go out there without your teammate, which at some point they're going to have to do, right?
And that was the part where it was funny. If we mentioned, that's what we were talking about as we saw, what was taking place on the field. The conversation that we were having with some former Bengals players is how conditioned we are to, once we hear that whistle, to start going again.
Yes.
Before I got into politics, before I did these things, football coach, football player for almost majority of my life, you are conditioned to that. If somebody gets hurt, you just move the ball up 10 yards and kind of keep it moving. But you never see a situation where somebody's life has ended or somewhere you see your teammates literally is struggling for their life. Now you hear the crying or the angst of those, and you get used to those sounds. But that in itself, that you talk about, trauma and dealing with a traumatic injury in itself, I think that in itself needed some time to let that heal. So, in agreement on that one. Let's see if we also agree on this as well. Just because we kind of had a little so like you got your football talk, and you have a favorite for the Super Bowl this year. And I'm going to throw this caveat into it as well, because I'm not sure if you heard how the NFL is going to kind of deal with not playing this game. So if you don't have, so obviously the Bengals and the Bills have played one less game than everybody else. So if they play somebody else in the playoffs, then they're going to play at a neutral site. Okay. That's kind of how they determine that much. So in one sense of it, it could be a, unfair advantage for the Bengals, even though, it's really, in the overall grand scheme of it, it's not that big of a deal. Right. But yeah, just kind of getting your thoughts. Who do you any Super Bowl favorites? Who you think is going to end up in Arizona this year?
The Bengals.
Hey, who they? Who they? Nah, yeah. No, for sure. And I, homer at times. We had a great opportunity to talk with your young man here, and like I said, that's just a testament to you and your husband. But especially a young man that can talk ball is always cool. But as a Bills fan, strong quarterback. If being able to play at home, the fact that maybe they're going to lose a home game makes it tougher for them. Bengals home stadium has been rocking lately. I can see Kansas City now kind of having that path of having to going through Arrowhead. Yeah. And they're kind of that team that teams have been slipping on a little bit. Yeah. We're having a Patrick Mahomes like that, but it always comes down to, the Kansas City's defense. They're playing that man-to-man type of zone. It gets tough consistently to have to stop these high-powered quarterbacks. So now I definitely see, I can see the Bengals, knock on wood.
That's right.
Knock on wood, making that run. Anybody in the NFC, you got Philly, the Cowboys, the Giants, anybody in that? Nah. NFC. yeah. It's crazy right now, yeah.
I mean, I you know what? I'm kind of impressed by Philly, actually. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Mom's smart.
It's not one that I saw coming, but now that I see it, I'm like, okay.
And what I love about Philly is that their type of game travels. The thing that makes me nervous about Philly is that, the quarterback has been hurt for a little bit, and it's tough to now have to be your first game back in the playoffs. Yeah. So if they can kind of get over that hurdle, I think that will now propel them to make a heck of a run. San Francisco, I think, will be tough because when it gets down to the playoffs, it's about run game and it's about defense. Run game and defense really controls these games. Yeah. And in the NFC right now, what they're doing with their run games, both Philly with their run, with their zone read, and now San Francisco with the outside run zone game, I really, I'm looking forward to see who comes out of that NFC. But yeah, who day all day.
Who day all day. I think Nicholas told me that he wanted to see the Bengals come back to the 49ers and beat them this time. Yeah.
Shout out to some of those former Bengals players that we were hanging with because they couldn't get that done. But I know that's what they would love to see happen.
New team, new day.
Yeah. I know, absolutely. But no, Nicole, this has been fantastic. Ms. Mullins, this has been wonderful. Any just last thoughts that you have for us? I know you got to get going, but anything else that you got for us?
Yeah, the one thing I want to say is that you probably have heard or watched the press conference with the emergency room physician and the trauma physician that took care of or taking care of Hamlin. And I think that one thing that they are emphasizing but really need to kind of push more is how important it was and how quickly they responded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because again, time when that pump is down, that time is lost and you don't get circulation to the brain, to the rest of the body, and those minutes are precious. So the fact that they were able to get out there and recognize quickly that he had no pulse and he was not breathing and start compressions was important because to speak to your point, you have to start there to get to the point where they could defibrillate him. Because what comes after basic life support is what we call advanced cardiac life support, and that's where the defibrillator comes in. It's literally, besides administering drugs and medications to kind of get the heart going again, it is literally the next step after compressions is early defibrillation. And so having an AED, we didn't really cover that topic, but a defibrillator that is available in public places and in schools now, in grocery stores and zoos and wherever you are, Kings Island, like everyone has these defibrillators that can be used by regular non-emergency personnel, although at that point that you have it, you're hoping somebody is coming, right? But in the meantime, until you get to that step, starting and recognizing that there's a problem, and how do you do that? Checking a pulse to make sure that you feel or do not feel a pulse, and understanding, watching their chest rise and fall, is it moving, and just shaking the person. Are you okay? Hey, can you hear me? And if none of that's happening and you're sure that there's a problem, you start those compressions. And the last thing I will say is what you see on TV is not real.
Absolutely not.
If you're not breaking ribs, then you're not doing it.
But to that point, though, Nicole, I think that's important. That's why the training is so important, because it prepares you to go through. Because even saving somebody's life can be traumatic.
Yes,
it could be a traumatic experience. So I'll definitely shout out to those who are on the spot. I wish we knew the Cincinnati training staff. I believe it's still Dr. Galloway. I believe he's still kind of running. So he's helped me out personally through mine. But if that's still the lead doctor over there, I think Dan Wilkins was a guy as well. But if those aren't the guys, whoever that team was, you guys are the real heroes. Because once again, you guys have been out here. Truly saved the life. I think Nick was just checking his chest. He's scared me for a second. I was like, but no.
When I say breaking ribs, that's what I mean.
Yeah. You're gonna because you gotta press through. Because as you said before, Nicole, the heart is a pump, but the heart needs that electricity as well. But before anything else, like if you want to get the car started, you gotta let the car sit for a little bit before you take off. The same way with your heart, right? You gotta get that pump going.
Gotta get it
if
going.
it's going, it's not going.
That's right.
Then we'll give it that shock. But this has been fantastic. I hope I can get you back here again. Hopefully, not. It's not a bad situation now, right? It's not a sad situation. It's actually a good situation. It's a good situation. We got a chance to talk about. And speaking of which, is next month not
Heart Month?
Heart Month.
Yeah.
So we got to bring you back next week. It's Valentine's Day, Red Hearts. Yeah, let's figure out a way to bring you out. Any other shameless plug?
The only other shameless plug I have, which is a plug all day, every day, go to your doctor, right? Always go to your doctor. Take somebody with you. I know you've heard that before. Take someone with you. Take yourself. See a doctor once a year, even as a young person. It's important to stay, this is how we stay healthy. And you take somebody with you, and that's how that person takes the next person with them. This is how we combat this issue with, as an underserved community. How we have to, sometimes you just got to grab somebody and say, look, just come on. Come on. I
know that's Dr. Cox. I will set an appointment soon, Dr. Cox. I'm sorry. But no, this has been fantastic, man. Thank you guys for joining us for another edition of In the Zone. No problem. As we always say here, there are no limits because we are the heights. We'll be back with Big Bill in our next Zoom. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
What a great conversation. Thank you again to Nicole Mullins, man. First of all, black nurse practitioners.
Beautiful.
Black nurse practitioners.
Beautiful.
Working in the heart field, man. Just when she reiterated what we talked about before, making sure you get your CPR certification is huge, man. Being able to save a life, bro.
Definitely. Especially if you got kids, you're around people, that definitely something I always just keep in your bag. Gotta keep.
You are a superhero, Dr. Mullins, Nurse Mullins. For sure, you are a superhero, Nurse Mullins, and thank you for jumping on with us. So as we get, we finished up our conversation with her with sports. She had her Super Bowl prediction, man. She said Bengals, Philadelphia Eagles, which once again can't really argue against her. I definitely agree with her on the NFC side. Let's jump into the whole playoff prediction, man. But first of all, man, what do you think about how the NFL just dealt with how the playoffs are going to lay out, man? I don't know if you've seen how that was going to play out, but just your thoughts on it.
It's a little extra. It seems a little unnecessary, but I get it. I understand both sides. I can see how people can say it's unfair, but I felt like they were trying to be ultimately too fair, and it caused them to do something a little extra that wasn't unnecessary as far as the cold coin flip situation. I think if you're going to make somebody the champion of the division, they should get everything that comes with being the champion of the division. But I understand how you can't feel comfortable or how you don't feel comfortable making somebody the sole champion when you don't actually know how those games would have played out. It's a hard predicament, a hard situation for the NFL to be in. Yeah. I wouldn't want to have to make that decision. There's a lot of money involved in that. But I feel like they did the best. It's the lesser of two evils. Again, sometimes you just got to make a decision to go with it.
I think the pushback is that, there was already a rule in place, right? And as you said before, you're trying to accommodate a lot of people. And, the rule is, man, you can't always please everybody.
Right.
So just go ahead and push forward with it is. And hopefully, the Bengals take place and do what they need to do this weekend. Because if they win, it kind of solves a lot of issues in itself. But
if they lose, it's going to be we shouldn't even have that game. It's going to be a thing. So you can't make everybody happy altogether. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. But that's the beautiful thing about sports because it's always leveled out on the field. You know what I mean? We always determine the champion on the field. In this way, once again, man, we want to make sure we're at the utmost sensitivity as we talk about this subject. Because, once again, we talk about it. We have nothing but prayers for the whole situation.
Definitely.
But the great thing about sports, it can be determined on the field. And this is now seem like it's something that was determined up in New York City. Because now, like you said before, the Bengals are the AFC North champions. But if they don't take care of business, and in a normal season, if you're the AFC North champion, then you're really talking about if my seeding is set in place, resting some players, allowing my guys to get healed up for another week. You don't have that opportunity because if you lose, you might have to go to Baltimore and play your first round, even though you're the AFC North champion. That part for me is just kind of it just blows me, bro.
Man,
so
it's crazy, bro.
One minute, bro, I really want you to get into this NBA news. Just speaking about how we've been the hottest podcast right now. Everybody who's been playing in the NBA right now just seems like they've been hot. So I feel like right now I can come out and at least give you 10.
Yeah.
I can give you 10 right now in the NBA. These days been scoring. But, man, just what's your thoughts on NBA and they scoring, bro? I know you want to hit on that.
And it's not even just the NBA, it's the NFL. I feel like, too, they're doing it as well. I want to mention them. They get honorable mention because their scores, everybody's scoring 30. Every game is 35 to 42. You know what I mean? Like, it's not too many 9 and 6s and 12 to, you know what I mean? Those games don't exist no more. So, but the NBA been going crazy lately. Just, I found an article and then went over the past, excuse me, I got a little bit of that. I mean, over the past basically 2 months, how there's been more 50-point games than like ever in NBA history. It's been like 14 50-point games in like the past 2 months. So I'm going to go over some of these numbers. Just listen to this, like it's crazy. And a lot of them happened already in 2023. And it's still like the first week into the year. So Donovan Mitchell, of course, shout out to him.
That was big.
Definitely applause to him.
He just it was on the worst day he did it. I mean,
yeah.
Like I said, that was all the news went strictly to where it should have belonged. Yeah. But yeah, definitely shout out to Donovan Mitchell.
A lot of people missed that, but I mean, we're Ohioans, and I'm proud to. Yeah, for sure. I know. And shout out to the Knicks. I know they hate things right now. Like the Knicks could have had Donovan Mitchell. I know they feel bad. Shout out to them, Donovan Mitchell. But Donovan Mitchell, 71 on the second. Luka dropped 60 on the 27th
Expected.
of the 2022. Joel Embiid dropped 59 on November 13th.
Cool.
Devin Booker dropped 58 on December 17th.
What'd he do?
Giannis dropped 55 this year, January 3rd.
Can't stop him.
Anthony Davis dropped 55 on December the 4th.
Get healthy.
Clay Day. Shout out to my Warriors. They're getting it together. Clay dropped 54 on January 2nd.
Great story.
Joel Embiid dropped 53 on December 11th.
Double goon.
Pascal Siakam, 52 on December 21st.
Surprising. But shout out to Toronto.
Shout out to Toronto and Siakam. He a baller, but 50. Come on, bro.
Whoa.
Yeah, Luka, 51 December 31st. You're going to hear his
Nice.
name a lot on this list. He's going crazy.
I like Luka, man.
Yeah, he going crazy.
I really like Luka. I love Luka's game, bro.
Shout out to Luka, man. He like Tyson Fury. Like that white guy got some different kind of rhythm. It looks a little unorthodox, but he gets what he needs to get done. So shout out to Luka Ball. Devin Booker, 51 November 3rd. Darius Garland, another up there in Ohio, Cleveland boy, 51 November 13th.
That's a surprising one.
Yeah, Luka again, dropped 50 December 23rd.
Nice.
Of course, Chef Curry with the pot, he dropped 50 November 16th.
Shout out to the Showcon.
Yeah, for sure, always, Dub Nation. But that's 14 games of 50 since November, and I don't remember ever being a time where people were just willy-nilly dropping 50 like that. Like,
I wonder how many of those, except for, like I said, Joel Embiid is impressive.
yeah,
Giannis is impressive.
he been going crazy. MVP candidate.
AD's is impressive because a lot of those were 2-point baskets. Like a lot of some of those guys too. When you talk about the Devins, the Chefs, even my man up in Cleveland, both of them, Darius and Donovan, and Spider Mitchell.
Yeah,
I wonder how many threes taking to place with that. You know, the game is
It's
evolving.
a 3 league,
and it kind of slid out a little bit. So when you think about that though, and you incorporate that one extra point into how many shots that you take, then you know it's really going to keep just going up like that. But hey, man, shout out to the NBA, man. Just shout out to sports in general. I think we got like 2 minutes left of this one, but before we have to wrap it up.
Just play some defense. Before I wrap it up, just play some. Like, I know, but they protecting the money, and it goes into my. I'm a conspiracy theorist, y'all. If y'all don't know nothing about me, I take it a little step further. I always want to follow the money. They want to protect the money. The people that's dropping all the points are the shows, or the faces of these leagues. They want to make sure that it's more exciting to see them.
Siakam, man.
No, okay, that's an exception. That's more of
Darius
the defense
Garland?
and the 3-point thing in the NBA. The NBA is just running gun threes. It's a make or miss league.
Does the NBA really rock with Joel Embiid like that?
I mean,
that might be another episode.
Not rock with him, but he was an MVP candidate. He was definitely up there along with the Joker. I mean, he was looked at to be the face of the league a couple years ago. Phoenix has definitely taken a downward spiral over the past year or two, but just 2 years ago when they had that crazy record, they were the face of the league, and he was all over the place. He on the cover of NBA 2K this year.
I mean, don't sleep on the skill of these guys, though, man. These are some phenomenal athletes that are doing some crazy stuff with these basketballs, man.
For sure.
Shout out to the Lincoln Heights Tigers kindergarten basketball team, by the way, man.
All day long.
With the dub, man. Shout out to Darian Daniels, number 9.
yeah, definitely.
I know, right, man.
Shout out
to that whole organization. Shout out to them coaches, Shine Green,
Definitely.
Coach Ashley, man, the whole crew,
Rob.
Rob,
Yeah,
absolutely,
everybody.
man. I appreciate you guys. Y'all doing the Lord's work, man.
Work.
I appreciate y'all having my boy out there. But, man, Darian rolled past the school today, man. It's like, man, basketball game? We go to my basketball game? It's like, nah. Next week we go to practice. Keep practice halfway out. So, man, y'all changing lives little bit by little, man. But, last thought, man, 30 seconds. Man, what you got for the people before we hear our final thoughts, bro?
It's a new year, new energy. I really don't think it's the new year. It really starts in the spring when everything comes back alive, but that's another conspiracy theorist deep dive we'll get into later. But I'm just happy to be here. I'm looking forward to 2023, and we about to get it. It's playoff times over the weekend, some new games. I'm just looking to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, man. As we talked about 2023.
And happy Garland back.
Nah, man, absolutely, man, absolutely. And we talked about 2023. We always talk about something to leave you with. I think the theme of the day is just, man, your skill sets and empowering people. And I think there is no better skill set than having the ability to save somebody's life. Yeah. So once again, shout out to those who are working at that game, but shout out to all you all who are CPR certified, who are first aid certified, who have that ability to went out there and took those 2 hours out your day to be able to get that skill set to save a life. Whether it's for coaching or your own need, you're appreciated. You're a superhero, and we need to shout out more people like that.
Real quick, one more. I know we about to get out of here. I'm over my time, but shout out to my pops. He just got approved to be on the donor list. He was just saying that's one thing to be able to save somebody's life. So if you want to tap in and see how you can be a donor and see if you're a potential match for my father, inbox us. We're going to have the information somewhere up here. We're going to have it up here.
Yeah, no. Shout out to Lauren. Yeah. Shout out to Denise. Shout out to Audrey. Shout out to Aubrey, because we were just meeting with that crew today, man. Shout out to the Life Center crew. Yeah. If you want to be an organ donor, we'll definitely have that information up here, because there's some phenomenal people. They actually was rapping on today, man. They told me they want to get out in the garden and start really donating with us, man. And start volunteering with us. So we told them on Saturdays from 10 to 2. They said they're going to be down. We start getting everything popping off in the spring. But
Mom Dukes is an organ recipient that saved their life. So we want my dad need one. I'm a big advocate of that, so I'm going to support any of that.
So, hey, that's a great idea. If you don't mind making that connection, Lauren, I want to holler at you guys too. So I'm already putting this on the air right now. If we can make that and really have that conversation, about organ donors and really putting some spells and really just displacing a lot of daggone there's a lot of myths out there about organ donors, man, and what you think, man. Because it's like I might go and we can wrap it over time. We definitely got to wrap this up, but there's a lot of myths out there too. So if we can set that up, let's see if we can get that going, man, for one of our next conversations. We're actually booked for the next couple of weeks, bro. Man, so like I said, man, we got some exciting things coming for you guys, man. Shout out to the Urban League. Shout out to Ryan A. McDade, Dr. McDade. We're excited about bringing you guys some new content. Shout out to some folks down in Atlanta. Shout out to our folks down in Cleveland. Actually, we'll be broadcasting live in Cleveland next week for our Red Dog trip when we heading up there. So hopefully, bro can make it up there. I know things get a little tight, but if not, I'll be up there on location. Bro's gonna be where he's at.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
be there.
So we already talked about it. So wait till next week. Exciting news. I talk too much. We got to get out of here. All the limits because we are the heights.
We out here. Man. The movement. What's up?
Hey, I'm Deanna. I go by Didi. I go to Princeton High School. I'm a senior this year, and I'm also committed to Stetson University.
Stetson, you definitely balling. So on 3, 4 spin? How would you kind of characterize your position on the court?
I mean, I can really say I can do everything. They put me at any position that they trust me with. So.
Who would you compare your game to?
Compare my game?
Yeah. What would you say you kind of compare your game to, or mimic your game, or model your game after?
I don't know. I've never thought about it. So I really just, I don't know. I don't really look at a lot of people highlights. Probably the one person I did look at when I was younger was Maya Moore.
Oh, bro, man! Shout out to him too, him Spare. Yeah. But no. So when you talk about right now looking up to Maya Moore, obviously, your coach was a heck of a basketball player. I don't know if you knew about that, but yeah. So how has that been, under Coach D. Davis, this past couple of years? Couple coaching changes. But how would you kind of describe Coach Davis's coaching style?
Yeah, so she came out of college, coaching out of college. She played at Vanderbilt, so her coaching style is a lot different from a lot of other coaches. She pushes you to your max. It isn't just go out here and just do the little things. You gotta go practice outside of practice. You gotta she wants you to be great. So in order for you to be great, you gotta do things outside of practice to be great. So she's a wonderful coach. I love her. She just makes you a better person on and off the court.
Shout out to the GOAT, D. Davis, one of the first All-Americans. I remember D. Davis, there was a thing called, man, and one mixtape, man. She was out there doing it then as a young lady, really killing it. So there's also, right after her, a guy named Eric Daniels, another guy that also came from Princeton, right after her too. One-on-one type of thing, man. He says he didn't beat her, man. I'm pretty confident D won that one-on-one battle. But yeah, no, shout out to your coach. Shout out to you guys this year. You guys did just play in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
How was that trip?
It was great, actually. We went 2-0. We played some of the best competition in the country. We played St. Paul VI, and they're ranked nationally in the country, and we beat them by 11. So we did really good. We're going to keep progressing throughout the season.
So as you wrap this thing up, what would you kind of say you guys' goals as a team are this year and your goals personally for this year, on and off the court?
Okay, so one, for our team, of course, we want to go to state. We failed at that last year just a little bit. Yeah, but we're going to get there this year. And then just for me as an individual, I would say to finish this year strong on and off the court, mentally and physically, because the mental is the biggest part, especially with me going into college as a freshman. And I'm expected to get a lot of playing time, so it's going to be a lot with trying to manage basketball and college, so it's going to be a lot. So I just want to keep my mental together throughout the whole process.
All right, overtime, last question. What you going to major in this thing?
I'm trying to figure it out, but mainly I want to go into law.
Okay, no, we need that. We need more lawyers, especially lawyers. Let's talk about lawyers from
Springdale, but I'm from the 15 for real.
Springdale, I was gonna say, but Princeton District girl, like I said, definitely when she said bloodlines time back from Lincoln Heights, we need more young black women that's definitely in behind, not just the court scene, of sense of man, either fight for somebody or crime for somebody, but actually sitting there fighting these fights, fighting those crimes defending our people.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we really want to see. But I appreciate you, D. Anything else? Last thoughts. Go to you. Last one.
I would just say for the young viewers, keep pushing, keep striving. Everyone got their own time, especially if you want to go to college for any sport. Like, your time's come. Mine didn't come to my junior year to where I start getting my offers. So everybody got their own time. Just know God there, and He gonna guide you through the way.
That's great advice. Like we always say, there are no limits.